Hello ladies, it's Menopause Barbie here, giving you menopause, your management, your way, now and for the rest of your life. And as you know, one of the things that I've covered with you is herbs and botanicals for managing your menopause. And so today I have with me Dr. Sadhna Singh, who is an herbalist and an acupuncturist. But we're going to talk about the herbalist part of her expertise today. Thank you, Dr. Singh, for being here. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure talking to you. Yes.
And I have to tell you, you have more designations after your name than I have ever seen before. It's like 6 different things stringing along, comma, 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 comma. So tell us, what do they all mean?
Those designations represent my education experience as a blending of Western medicine and Eastern medicine. So that
great.
My background originates in Western medicine, and I practiced for many years, over a decade in India, Western medicine, and then
and was that in obstetrics and gynecology?
In obstetrics and gynecology.
There you have it.
And then in Singapore, in emergency medicine, where I was doing mostly medical evacuations and flying out to different areas in Southeast Asia to pick up patients. After which I started the journey on traditional Chinese medicine after I moved here to Houston in '99. So when I moved in '99, I was looking at different options, and acupuncture seemed to be something I'd explored in Singapore and wanted to learn more about it.
Yeah.
I was in fact thinking of combining or just sort of doing the acupuncture on the side and doing my USMLE and the licensing and doing Western medicine. But somewhere during the course of learning acupuncture, I had to choose and had to pick which one would I really be giving my best to versus trying to combine too many things.
I see.
And ever since I went on to, I chose doing the acupuncture, did my master's in acupuncture, and then have never regretted it once, because it's been such a fulfilling journey professionally. And after finishing my master's, I was interested in doing more work in gynecology and women's medicine. So in gynecology, and I decided to do my doctorate in acupuncture and oriental medicine. And one of the programs that that offers more women's health is a school in San Francisco. So I completed my doctorate from there.
And when you go to the acupuncture training program, do they combine that with herbs, or is it still just isolated to acupuncture at that point?
No, it's a combination of both acupuncture and herbs. And in fact, since we are discussing more on herbs, I'd focus more of what I was learning. I felt like with the acupuncture it was easier, having had a Western medicine background, knowing the anatomical areas.
Yes, of course.
It made sense. Here's the meridian, here's the channel, here's the point. So it's more specific and easy to grasp. Whereas the herbs have Pinyin Chinese names, so if you don't understand the language, you're literally back to where in Western medicine we had all the pharmacological groups and names we had to learn. So that was a huge learning process. And it's not only hundreds of herbs, but it's hundreds of formulas and how the synergy comes together on the herbs. So it was
it's harder,
at the least a challenging process, but I'm glad that I took it on and was able to complete it.
So there are some menopausal women who definitely prefer alternative and complementary therapy for symptoms of menopause. Do you see women coming to you with symptoms of menopause specifically for herbal treatments?
Yes, we do. We have those who may have tried hormonal replacement or tried doing other modalities, and somehow the other haven't had the success with it, or run into some side effects, or are unable to continue the hormone replacement because they found out that someone in their family has cancer, and they may be, just wanting to get off any sort of hormone replacement. So there are women who have tried other available options for menopause, and some who really would like to start up the process with it being more of a natural option that they can do, which would be more safe.
You see people who are starting out with herbs and people who come to herbs as a result of not being satisfied in other realms.
Exactly, both different ones. Just because, I mean, basically, when you look at obviously menopause, it's not a disease.
Right.
Physiologically, it's something our bodies are going to get to. It's something where everybody, and just the fact that with life expectancy being longer now, I think put at 85, that if we are getting to menopause at 50 or
you're spending
48,
a chunk of time.
1/3 of your life you're spending in that menopausal, perimenopausal part of it. So it definitely is a physiological process where the herbal medications as well as acupuncture comes in to manage it in a way that is more tolerable. It's not something that will make it go away because it's a natural phenomenon. It's something that
more manageable.
It's a part of aging. It's a part of getting past.
So you feel as though the herbs improve the severity of symptoms, but not necessarily erase the symptoms.
That's right. I mean, to some extent, some symptoms could be totally gone. Some patients report, in fact, just earlier today, I was seeing someone who came in saying that she's coming in for insomnia, but also was having hot flashes and had some blood pressure issues. So within the last couple of treatments, she's noticed that her blood pressure is better maintained. And today's treatment, I asked her about the hot flashes since we see them weekly. And she said, I haven't had a single one this week.
Good.
So she hadn't even realized, because as you must see in your practice and your experience, that women may undergo the hot flashes for years. Years at a time. And sometimes it becomes a part of their lives. And so to some extent, some of the symptoms may be totally gone. Some may be improved, whereas it's tolerable for them to be not pulling out a small hand towel every time a hot flash comes on and having to wring it or having to run to a restroom to put some cold water. And at times they could be completely gone. At times they could be lesser, where they feel it coming on and they feel like, okay, it was there and it's gone.
And do you experience women coming to you saying, I am coming to you for menopausal symptoms, or do they typically come for symptoms that they don't realize are a result of menopause?
Some of each. Some will be, frankly, we know we're in menopause because they've seen their OBGYN who said, checked on the FSH levels and said, here you are in menopause. And some would come in saying they're coming in for sleep issues or sometimes psychosomatic issues, some depression, some anxiety, and are not quite fully aware that they've got to that menopause stage, or maybe still in the perimenopausal, which could be a span of 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years.
The transition. That crazy transition time. So if a woman comes to you and says, I only want herbal therapy, I'm afraid of needles, I don't want acupuncture, only herbal therapy, and she is suffering from symptoms of menopause, general symptoms of menopause, do you have a specific herb or a specific formula of herbs, or do you have many different options? How do you decide which herbs to use when a woman comes to you with, say, 10 different symptoms of menopause?
It's very, the herbs are tailored specifically to each individual's needs. So they are formulas that would be applicable across the board for anybody having menopausal symptoms. But that would be converting it more into over-the-counter taking vitamins, supplements. What happens with, sometimes you hear patients saying that their friend took black cohosh and that helped them, their friends, but they didn't make a difference for their hot flashes. That doesn't mean that that herb is not good. It just means that it wasn't the specific
women are different.
Everybody's different. So to answer your question, when the patient wants just herbal treatment, yes, we offer just the herbs, but they would be tailored specifically to that individual's requirements. So if there's, say, for example, 3 different women with menopausal issues but present with different complaints.
Yeah.
Or on examining their tongue, pulse, taking a history, looking at the physiological setup, what kind of herbs we would decide would be depending on each individual.
Sure.
So they would be different for
Yeah.
everybody. There could be some that specifically are for hot flashes, but because we have our flexibility to getting our herbs ready, which we'll show you in a little bit about those too, but there isn't a set formula sitting for everybody.
Yeah. Well, tailoring, that's the whole name of the game here. Everyone has to tailor everything to herself.
As you rightly say in your book about menopause your way.
Yeah.
So it's obviously about what would fit with their existing complaints.
Yeah.
And at times we see different presenting complaints where they come in with issues.
Absolutely.
Those resolve and then
something new ones
else comes up. So that way we can modify their herbs,
it's an
herbal
evolution.
formulas, because it's all about taking a specific herb for a specific situation and different for an individual.
And are most treatments weekly? Do they see you typically every week to manage?
Most treatments are weekly, and that way we get a good feedback as to what progress we are seeing. Are we making the right progress? Because even with herbs, it's not 100% foolproof.
Right.
When we are looking at specifically gearing them to an individual, they may react well for some time.
Right.
And they may plateau off for a little bit. And then we might have to tweak them a little, modify them, so that we can keep a close watch on what's going on with the symptoms.
And I've taught my viewers that there are very different regulations for the medical world with regard to pharmaceutical agents versus herbal substances. And when you get a patient coming to you, do you tend to find that she already knows that the regulatory standards are vastly different in the two worlds? Or
mostly they do understand the difference, saying that how the pharmaceutical world is controlled differently and as are the regulatory bodies. And so that's another very important point, because we want them to take herbs from the right source.
Exactly.
So that it's not just saying on the label that they're getting this.
That's right.
They're actually getting the right ingredient. So we do get our herbs from a company out in California. And they are not under the pharmaceutical guidelines, obviously, being herbal supplements, but they follow things like a good GMP, a good manufacturing process. They have they do their due diligence about choosing the right herbs, which are macroscopically looked at, as well as they do processing, where actually there's more information on their website. It's called KPC, is the one we use. And it goes through the whole information on how the herbs are collected, sorted.
So they have higher grades of purity and
processed, and making sure that they do not have any kind of pesticides, any heavy metals, things that you want to be wary of when you're doing herbs.
And so that's very different than what you might find in a commercial setting if you go buy herbal botanical products from a vitamin shop. Yours are much more pure than that.
And then we have them in the form of granules. So the herbs are granules, and then we have a encapsulating machine. So there's a capsule making machine. So just because there are different ways you can take your herbs.
You take them as a tea, or
you take them as a tea, but it's tedious. You get some roots and leaves, and you cook them, and you strain them, and you cook them again, and you strain them, and they don't taste that good. So sometimes just
worse than tofu.
To ensure patient compliance, it's an easier way to put them into capsules. And that way the patients are able to take that. And especially with our world today, no one has the time.
No one has time to do any of that stuff themselves. It's so true.
So if they're on the go, they're catching a flight, and they're flying every other day, they can at least take the capsules. So
it makes it easier.
That way, coming back to your question about the purity form of it, we're more comfortable with what the herb content is, the concentration is, and we're able to put it together ourselves in a specific formula.
What's the most common symptom women cite, menopausally speaking, as a reason for wanting your herbal therapies? What would be the most common symptom you treat? Is it the hot flashes?
Hot flashes, hot flashes, hot flashes.
Really?
So it's definitely
Really?
the vasomotor flushing, the
Wow.
hot flashes.
Yeah.
But the other common things after that, the first number one being hot flash, then there's insomnia, just
Okay.
difficulty sleeping.
Yeah.
Then there's depression, anxiety,
Yep.
some blood pressure issues. At times, swelling of the feet.
Right. Edema,
legs,
bloating.
edema,
Yeah.
bloating,
Yeah.
right, and some weight gain.
Yeah.
And but the most common is the hot
The hot
flashes.
flashes, yeah.
Yes. And
Wow,
especially
yeah.
debilitating ones.
And which herb is the most successful in treating hot flashes?
that would be again specific with each
Oh,
individual.
so there's not a one, there's not a winner.
So
We don't have a winning herb for hot flashes.
not just one, but there's a couple of them that come into that
Yeah.
category of to put it into a simplified form is in our body there is obviously balance is what
Right.
Eastern medicine is all about.
Yeah.
And when you have a certain element of what is people are familiar with the symbol of yin and yang for,
Yes,
for
of course,
Chinese medicine.
yes.
So the idea being that you have a balance of yin and yang.
Uh-huh.
So commonly there is a kidney deficiency that
Yeah.
happens as we go on in years. So in Chinese medicine, kidneys are the basis of reproductive energy, and our practice since focuses a lot on fertility. Over the years of being in practice, now the women that I helped conceive
Yeah.
are at that place
Oh
of
yes, of course.
menopause.
Of course. Yeah.
So with a decline in the kidney energies, which could be the yin component or the yang component.
Uh-huh.
So the yin, if to simplify it, would be more the nourishing part.
Uh-huh.
The yang is more the warming.
Okay.
So if the yin is deficient, then we're doing
Oh,
herbs
then you
that
do
would
more.
nourish
I
yin.
see.
If the yang is deficient, they're having
I
more cold
see.
symptoms. They're
Okay.
having more bilateral edema,
Okay.
swelling of the
So you
feet.
just replace what's missing,
so you're
which is
balancing.
really kind of the name. Yeah. Name of
Yes,
the game.
that's well put, simplified
Yeah.
into that we are replacing
Yeah.
because you're bringing the body back to balance.
I like that. Yeah.
Because when the yin or the nourishing part is deficient, there is a deficiency heat.
Sure.
So
Sure.
because the heat and the nourishing should be in balance,
Yeah.
if the yin is nourishing, there's deficient heat. So
Yeah.
we don't need herbs that are going to totally clear the heat,
Okay.
but they will be those that will clear the deficiency heat.
That's nice.
So it's a
That's
very
nice.
fine line.
It's very
between what
fine. It's
you
very
pick and
detailed.
choose.
Much more than what you would get if you went to the herb shop and just bought your own little bottles of whatever you thought. And
Right.
and what's your opinion on the bottles of herbs that are a combination of different things? There are many of them out there for menopause, just menopause formulations with various
Right.
things in them. And I've taught my viewers to look at the labels, see what's in them,
Right.
and notice, do they have an herb that represents an estrogenic herb, or do they have anything that represents progesterone? Do they, what's in the bottles? And
Yeah,
there's all kinds of
numerous
things out
formula
there.
Like you said,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things out there, and again, it's questionable about the amounts, the
Yeah.
concentrations.
Yeah.
The safety is a question, but at the
Sure.
same time, when you have things over the counter, you probably it's not to an extent that it could harm you in a
Right.
short period of time.
Right.
And that's why when patients started, they feel like, oh, they noticed some relief, but then
exactly.
they start,
Exactly.
then they look for somebody
Yeah.
who has
Yeah.
more of a
Yeah.
background in dealing with herbs,
Sure.
or individually being
That
able
makes
to
sense.
say,
Of course.
how does this particular thing in traditional Chinese medicine translate into Western medicine?
Sure.
Are we doing more, circulation related help with it?
Uh-huh.
Are we doing more anti-inflammatory benefit? Or with the herbs, are we doing some sort of a little bit of a phytoestrogen, like
Yeah.
a plant estrogen
Yeah.
sort of replacement, which would tide over that difficult time
Yeah.
for the
And when a woman comes to you for, let's say, hot flashes, is there usually a period of time that she has to have treatment before she feels like things are at an even state of affairs? What is that time frame for treatment?
Yes, but usually for the herbs, it takes anywhere from about 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Sometimes with the acupuncture, you may see a benefit
Sooner.
sooner,
Okay.
faster. And again, it would vary with the patient
Yeah,
presentation,
definitely.
what complaints they're coming in with.
Yeah.
But at times, 1 or 2 treatments and the hot flashes are gone.
Yeah.
But it's a process again, and
Yeah.
they may be having no hot flashes for a couple of months, and
Yeah.
something may trigger it off
Of course,
again.
stress, all kinds
That
of things.
glass of
yeah.
wine, or just things
Pleasures.
that would be, pushing them again
Sure.
in that direction where
Disrupting the balance.
we know exactly
It's
about the
disrupting the
balance
balance.
and physiologically changing things
Yeah.
on that, as well as it being a process that we are facing from menopause onwards
Sure.
till we live
Sure.
in this
Yeah.
world, that
Yeah.
we are constantly looking at what kind of environmental factors could
Yeah.
affect it,
Yeah.
or as you have videos out there on nutrition
Yeah.
and other things that would have a positive or negative impact
Absolutely.
on their symptoms.
And when you're treating somebody, let's say someone comes for hot flashes, and she only wants the herbs, and she does the herbs for 4 weeks, and there is no relief. What is your next step? Do you just change the combinations of herbs, or do you recommend something else at that point?
Well, different options. One of the options could be, like you rightly mentioned, about changing a formula. So you tried them on one, and it seemed to help a little bit, but not quite where you want them
Right.
to be. So you could change the formula. The second option could be to combine acupuncture with it,
Okay.
along with the herbs. The third option would be, if they haven't had a full workup, to have them go in to see their
Okay.
gynecologist. Okay, what else are we missing here?
Yeah.
Is their thyroid out of balance?
Of
Because
course.
a lot of times
That's
other
huge.
endocrine issues
Huge.
could be underlying, and they may not have had all
That's
the right workup.
Yeah.
So definitely,
Yeah.
I think with traditional Chinese medicine, it's very important to have that integration with
Absolutely.
working with their medical doctor.
And do you feel that that is pretty successful, or do you feel like there's resistance or friction or difficulty for physicians in the traditional medical world to work with you in a harmonious
Yeah, I think
kind of
it's
way? Do you
just-
think it works well?
It's the avenues are opening up more and
Good.
more and
Good.
more, because even now, if you look at residency programs in
Yeah.
medical school, they
Yeah.
even have an integrative medicine
Uh-huh.
residency program.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in communication with the medical doctors, that they are very open to
Good.
it. If they have their patients on certain hormones, they may not want herbs in combination with it.
Well, that's with
makes
any
sense.
drugs, because herbal medications and pharmaceutical drugs do intermingle and sometimes
Exactly. And at times
conflict.
we don't have enough research to show
That's
us
right.
what's going on.
That's
So
right.
we want to be always
yeah.
veering towards the safety part of it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so those may be some concerns, especially
Yeah.
if they have them on medications for blood pressure.
That's a
or
biggie. Blood pressure is a
depression.
biggie.
Right, and then you want to sort of see what is. That's why it's important to talk to their medical doctors as traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, and have that avenue open to discuss a comprehensive plan that would be best
Yeah.
for the patient.
Neat. So I am here with Lisa Parkhill. She is one of Dr. Singh's patients, and she has volunteered to tell us about her experiences with menopause and what she's chosen to do about them, and give us a little testimonial. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
So tell us your story.
Well, all of a sudden, all this stuff started happening to me. Just sweating and I knew what it was.
Yeah.
But I thought, surely I can't live like this.
Right.
And I finally, after one day of sweating profusely and putting my head in a freezer, so after just realizing I can't live like this, and I spoke to my gynecologist, and she said, well, there's antidepressants. I said, but I'm not depressed. I'm really happy. I mean, I don't like what's happening. Oh, but they help with the symptoms.
Uh-huh.
Or you could go on hormone therapy, and started telling me my options. And having a history of stroke, I said, it scares me. There has to be something else out there.
And you yourself have had a stroke, or your family?
My mother had a stroke at the age of 30.
Family history. Okay.
Yeah, she was
Okay.
30 years old, and left her with brain damage. So I've always had that fear, never taken birth control, and wanted something alternative.
Okay.
And my gynecologist, after knowing after 3 visits, she said, okay. And she reached in and she handed me a pamphlet, and it was for acupuncture for Dr. Singh. And I thought, well, if this is an MD referring to acupuncture, then why don't I try it? So I went in, and it was the strangest thing. 4 days later, after suffering for months, 4 days later, the hot flashes totally disappeared.
Really?
Disappeared.
And did you have acupuncture all by itself in an isolated fashion, or did you do herbs with it?
Didn't do herbs right away.
Okay.
I did the acupuncture, and for months it went away, and then it came back.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
And we started with the herbs.
Okay.
And then about a week later, my system changed, and I mixed the herbs with the acupuncture. And everything went great for a long time. I went good almost a year.
Okay.
No hot flashes. Then they came back.
Okay.
And so we kind of made some adjustments. And some of that was because I thought, oh, I'm better. I'm not going to take the herbs anymore.
Because you started getting bold.
Exactly. So I stopped the herbs. And then once I got back on my system again, the herb, like right now, I stopped the herbs because I ran out and I got lazy, and I feel great. Well, guess what happened?
Your symptoms returned.
Symptoms returned. So, but overall, my sister uses estrogen. She puts some kind of cream. I don't know. She rubs something on her arm, and it helps her so much better. But I'm not willing, because I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, well, she, symptoms aren't really helping her, but for the acupuncture with the herbs, really, compared to my friends, has been a lifesaver.
Well, and women are different, and comfort zones are everything. If you're uncomfortable doing something today, you're not going to be happy with it 20 years from now, because you're going to live every day in fear for those 20 years. So it's a evolution of finding out what works for you, and then being okay with it and comfortable with it. And the peace of mind is the biggest part of it all, in my opinion.
Well, it works now, so I don't want to make any changes right now while it's working, and not to say that I would never, I'm not going to say that, I'll never ever take hormones.
Right.
But right now, as long as this is working, this is what I'm going to stick with.
And that's pretty much the way it works. It's trial and error, and you see what works for you, and you realize you're not a robot. So as you change, you'll modify your regimen and manage your menopause your way, the whole journey.
Well, you're educating me. You're educating me, because I thought, once you get through this, then it goes away and you live happily ever after.
Everybody thinks that, and then when they find out, no, you're managing this for the rest of your life.
Surely women don't get hot flashes in their 80s.
Some do. Some do, and you have no way of knowing if you are going to be one of those women or not. And that's just the whole point. You don't have any way of knowing anything about how you will experience menopause. It's not going to be like your mother's. It's not going to be like your sister's. No two women are alike. So you are going to experience your menopause, and you're going to have to manage it your way. And I always teach that, your brain and your body may not agree. Your brain may say something sounds like a good idea, but your body may not respond. And then you have to adjust your choices again to accommodate what works for you. And that's what is so important about the education, so that you know how to navigate and where to go to find other options that will possibly work for you.
Do you work with people with diet as well?
Everything.
I mean, is diet
and lifestyle are huge. Vitamins and minerals, herbals, botanicals, hormonal medications, non-hormonal medications, acupuncture, hypnosis, all of it is great. All of it's great. That's the key. Nothing is bad. Okay? It's just a matter of what works best for you. And every woman has to do what's the benefit and what's the risk of every single option, and what's the benefit and what's the risk for you. Because your benefits and risks aren't the same as my benefits and risks.
Well, there's not a lot of information out there.
Exactly. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right, and I think for so many years, our grandparents never talked about it.
No,
it was something you hid. It was you didn't talk about it. And it's a shame. And with all these baby boomers aging, maybe it's going to change. Maybe
It has to
people
change
talk about
because
it.
we are the largest sector of society. Menopausal women, we are the fastest growing sector of society. And, you know, we're going to be overtaking the whole world. So we may as well feel good and enjoy doing it and get ourselves in shape for it, right? So thank you so
you're
much for
welcome.
telling us your story because
Thank you for
it's
educating
valuable,
me.
and I'm sure there are many people watching who will say, gosh, if it worked for her, I'm going to try it too. And that's what this is about, to see different things that are available so that you can then start figuring out what might work for you.
And let me say, I'm afraid of needles.
You are.
And so for me to go to acupuncture was huge.
Proud of
Petrified
you.
of needles.
Good for you.
It doesn't hurt.
Good for you. Thank you for telling us that.
It doesn't hurt.
Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, may we see some of your herbs?
Sure, yeah.
I love
we
looking
can
at herbs.
show you some of the herbs we have.
Okay, let's go look
and,
at some herbs.
They're not going to be exciting. 'Cause
They just look like a bunch of stems and leaves, but
No
but
yeah,
it's interesting
but
just to see
let's-
the collection. And I mean, we're all probably used to going to some GNC or store and seeing what's on the store in commercial packages.
Right.
But I don't think most people are used to seeing the display of herbs that might be in an herbalist's office, and
yeah.
that's what this is. That's
Yeah,
the special
we can
feature
definitely
here.
share
so.
that with our viewers.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go do that.
Thank you. So we have capsules, and this little machine here helps to separate out the capsules. So when you're looking at a capsule, it's going to separate the top and the bottom.
Oh,
there.
it's an empty capsule.
And as a result, we set those up there in the machine,
Uh-huh.
and then separate out the tops so we can fill them in with our
Oh.
herbs, and that way we can have, say, a
What a
underlying
collection.
formulation that has been from the classical Chinese text, which would be something like Ramanya 6 formula, which is Blvd Huang 1, which is a great formula for nourishing yin. And then with that formula, we can add an herb for sleep. We could add like Swan's RN, something for the sleep. And these are, let me show you one of them. They're in the form of
Powder.
powders.
Yeah.
So that's what they look like. And depending on the underlying herbs, some are darker, lighter, some are just different colors. So this is more of the granulation forms that we get, and then put them together in capsules. And some
It-
of those basic
The actual.
ingredients,
yeah,
actual twigs
twigs.
and leaves and seeds are.
You know, I have mentioned a few of the names to my viewers, you know, Dong Quai and
Right.
things like Black Cohosh, and none of these names have anything like Dong Quai or Black Cohosh
We
written
do,
down.
actually.
They have
We have-
Da Huang and Shuang Xiong and Cheng Wai Zi. I studied Mandarin for a
That's-
year, but it wasn't very successful.
So that's Dangui.
Yeah, there you go. I recognize one of them.
Right.
There are many, many things here. It's fascinating. Thank you so much. This has been just great. A lot of fun.
It's been a
Thank you
pleasure,
so much for
yeah,
doing this. I know
sharing that
everybody is
information.
appreciating it, and I know that there are women who really had no idea that this kind of option exists. They may have thought, oh, I'll go to the store and buy a few bottles of this or
Right.
that, but the idea of coming to an herbalist and having someone guide you and tailor your herbs for your specific symptoms is a great option for many women. So I want you to know that it exists, and there are wonderful doctors out there. Dr. Singh is one of the best, and you can find her information and contact details in the descriptive portion of the video. Thanks for coming, everybody. We really had fun with you today. Bye.